we've been finding that like it's almost fetishy kind of thing. Like there's
What?
like it's like these videos because Ellie just watches all these videos and she keeps touching the tablet and we're trying to get her to stop doing that. But she
You need
fell
the
on this
YouTube
one
Kids
where
app.
this adult like guy has like a pacifier and has his two daughters with pacifiers and they do
Oh
like these
boy.
weird
What?
like skits. It's really it's creepy as hell. I saw this. Like one of the kids pretends to vomit and this is
Oh
like
my
I
god.
was just
What?
You really need to be. Have you downloaded the YouTube Kids app?
yes.
Okay. And you weren't using that when this happened?
No.
Okay.
What the hell is that all about? Is it like Japanese or something?
No, it's American. It's some guy, either in the Midwest or it's in his apartment or home.
I mean, it's an infinite internet, right?
But yes,
anything's out there.
infinite banality mixed
That's
with infinite
bizarre.
WTF and the infinite combination.
Bizarre. I texted Nora, by the way. She's the one who will drink or order a drink when we go out because I'm usually driving. So I was like, "What's your drink?" Because I couldn't remember what her drink is. Amaretto sours. She always orders amaretto sours.
I have amaretto. You guys need to. Nora needs to come over and we never drink it. I can make her an amaretto sour.
Ah, you can make good ones.
No, I have no idea how to make one. I'd have to learn. But we have amaretto. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, there you go.
And no one ever drinks it. This amaretto, I don't think liquor spoils, but this amaretto is from our wedding.
Oh, okay. Well, unless you leave it open to the air.
Yeah, we bought it. We bought all our liquor for the bar for our wedding from Costco, and then returned anything that was unopened. But if it got opened, you couldn't return it. And of course, somebody had an amaretto sour. Nora wasn't at our wedding, I don't think, but somebody had it. And so we had, okay, well, we got to keep the amaretto. I'm like, I'm sure we'll use it.
Oh,
14 years later.
couple years ago, someone on Twitter wanted this print that I found in my office of Peter Sagal that I drew. And I'm like, does anybody want it? You know, and so someone from Ireland was like, I will send you whiskey for it. So they sent me Irish whiskey. It's called Writer's Tears. And it's been sitting in our kitchen, and Nora's like, "Can we open this?" Like, no, I got it. This is what paid like for this thing. It's kind of cool. So it's so it's just kind of sitting there. I just like the name of it. I like
Why you should open it and taste it. It's not going to go bad.
I know. I'm kind of a wimp.
All right.
But yeah. When I'm
Writer's
really
Tears.
down and when I'm down in despair.
I mean, I generate my own for you. You replenish it, so.
That's what I like about it. It's got
No,
this
I'm in
cool.
control when you get a chance to talk.
Oh yeah, got it.
It's got
I'm
this
going
cool
through
name.
this assembled list of potentially affected sites.
Oh,
Oh,
the
hey,
GitHub one.
Everybody in the
Some-
chat room, by the way, if you guys go to tested.com, listen to our latest Creature Geek podcast. You can find out how to get free stickers. They're not up here, but free Creature Geek stickers that I created for the show. So so check it out. Go to tested.com and download and listen to the latest episode of Creature Geek, which is up today.
Woohoo!
So this is basically some guy and posted this on GitHub.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress. So basically, it contains all the domains that use a Cloudflare DNS.
Right. I have that in the show notes, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just going. Oh, I thought you were asking about it. That's why.
Nope.
No, I'm going through it.
Oh yeah. No, I just said you said you were going through it. And I'm like, oh, the one from GitHub.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's all right.
Len was plugged.
Sorry, I'm plugging. I'm sorry.
So you're going to show every single website affected by Cloudbleed, right?
Do you want me to?
All
Click, click, click.
5.5 million websites.
You know what I'm
We'll
going to
cycle
do
through
is
all
I'm
of
just
them.
going to put that one that. What's that one that you reached the end of the internet?
Oh yeah, that's good. That'd be great.
Actually, is that around still up? Has to be.
Oh man, we already got title suggestions. KV87, How Cloud Lost Its Flair.
I like that.
I like that too.
That's cute.
That's funny.
Oh,
It's so
Shannon.
funny.
Thank you for the nice comment on my my White Rabbit project image.
Oh my god, it was so good.
Thanks. It's a test. That's only a test. I'm trying to work on.
When you said that was a test, I thought you meant it, like Shannon had passed. It was a test.
Oh,
to see if you'd say something.
I was only testing you to see if you remember doing that. No, the art was a test. I'm trying a new
That was
style.
awesome.
And so I'm trying to expand my art.
That's really cool.
Nice.
But
Yeah,
I
I liked what it looked like. I liked your shading.
Thanks. It's I'm really trying to try something a little bit different. So it was nice because most people just go, hey, but it's nice to get a comment. So
Yeah. Yeah, same with me on my Instagram. I've been posting a lot of photography and trying to learn more about how to take good photos, especially of landscapes and like touristy spots and stuff like that. And
yeah,
I always get those like nice
yeah, beautiful.
thumbs up.
Yeah,
I'm like, tell me why. Like, what's good about it?
yeah,
I'm
right.
learning here.
That always
one of the most important things I learned was, I mean, this is something you pick up from graphic arts class, but is the rule of golden thirds. Is that it?
The rule of thirds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think studying that works pretty. They do the same thing in photography.
Yeah. Rule of thirds. I use that too.
beautiful.
It works
The
really
golden
well.
rule of thirds is to do unto thirds the way you would want thirds to do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that was drilled into me in video production class.
Mm.
Do you know if you ever get a book? There's what happened to Shannon?
I'm here.
I just have a black screen for you.
Oh, that's.
Oh.
Here.
Yeah, your
Oh,
audio
yeah.
went away.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we
I
can
can
hear
hear
you
you.
fine.
But like when I see your little picture in the corner, but as soon as you speak, the screen goes black.
Let me log back in.
Okay,
I'll close and then log back in.
cool. Yeah, the picture down on the bottom is still, so that implies that it's cached.
Cloudflare.
Beautiful. There's,
You know, that's fine, Hangouts. You can do that
See now?
4 minutes before. Oh, yeah, you're back.
Oh, there's two of me.
Yeah, one of you's not moving, though, and will eventually go away.
Okay. I closed the window and just reopened a new one.
Yeah, now you see what we were seeing.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, so
Just showing
when
you.
it loses the picture, it keeps whatever the last still it had is.
Oh.
Which I'm
Imposter, Shannon.
that actually is kind of bad because then I think I'm tricked into thinking maybe your video's still working if I'm not paying attention.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fine. Faux Shannon will leave.
Imposter Shannon.
Imposter shit.
Shannon knows.
Ha ha ha. Lols.
Hey.
There.
Did you ever
More
get your
Shannon.
A7? Shannon, your Sony
A7?
camera?
Oh, yes, I did. I got it before I went to Japan last year.
Nice.
Oh, good. She dropped. That's right. Imposter Shannon.
Yeah, that's right. Get out of town.
No, that's your what do they call it in the Flash? Your time.
Yeah.
It's a time
I got
something.
I got the A7 right before I went to Japan, and it's amazing. I love it so much. Oh, best camera ever.
I give a thumbs up and say beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks, Len. Thanks.
Yeah. Beautiful.
I
Real
want-
quickly, on the latest episode of Portlandia, or episode of Portlandia, there's a guy, Fred Armisen plays a guy that just is like commenting on Instagram pictures. All he says is beautiful. Beautiful.
I'm gonna start doing that now.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I want
annoying.
the
Beautiful.
GH5 that just came out.
Beautiful. I'm going to go through all your pictures, Shannon, and do that now.
To troll.
Beautiful. You'll know. I'm going to start right now, actually.
All right, you guys. While Len just marks beautiful on all of Shannon's pictures, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to start the show?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by its global listener base, not outside organizations. To find out how you can contribute, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for February 24th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Shannon Morse in the house today. How are you doing, Shannon?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing, Mr. Merritt?
I am doing good. Shannon, of course, from TechThing and Hack5. And luckily enough, we have a hacking. Well, it's not really. Actually, it's not really a hacking. It's more of a security topic to talk
It
about.
is a 0 day. Well, not really a 0 day because buffer overflows.
It's a 6 day later.
It's a vulnerability disclosure discussion.
Yeah. We are going to talk about the Cloudflare vulnerability. If you've heard a little bit about that or heard it called Cloud Bleed, we're going to talk about basically the upshot is don't panic. You're probably not affected, but if you want to be safe, you might want to change some passwords. And we're going to talk about that some more. And that's what Len Peralta is going to try to draw. How's it going, Len?
It's going very, very well. I'm excited about this, actually. I think it's going to be it's an interesting topic. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. And I am more than ready to do a really awesome image for the show.
When we did Heartbleed a few years back, that you did a knockout job with that. So I'm confident.
I hope I can live up to that. So we'll see what happens.
Also, we should mention before we get into the top stories, Google apologized yesterday or I guess they apologized today for an issue yesterday with its Google Accounts engine, which accidentally logged everybody out of their Google Wi-Fi and OnHub devices. Those are the routers that Google sells, and then triggered a factory reset. So everybody had to reset up their routers from scratch.
Oh.
That's fun. Good Thursday evening project.
Poor Google.
Or poor Wi-Fi and auto users.
Somebody made a bork.
Yep. Unrelated to Cloudflare, just so you know. Tavis Ormandy confirmed that, actually, in one of his threads.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, people were like, hey, does this have anything to do? He's like, no, it doesn't. It's a separate problem. I don't know anything about it.
Be on your way, people.
Now, here are some more top stories. Alphabet's all over the news today. Alphabet's Waymo, that's their autonomous car company, filed suit against Uber's Otto, O-T-T-O, autonomous truck company, over misappropriated trade secrets. Waymo alleges that back in December 2015, while Otto's founder, Anthony Lewandowski, was a Waymo employee, this was back when Waymo was not called Waymo, it was just part of Google as Google X. Back then, Lewandowski downloaded 14,000 highly confidential and proprietary files, including Waymo's LiDAR circuit board design. LiDAR is the laser-based kind of radar-like detection. He then went on to start Otto, and they say he even met with Uber before he was done being a Google employee. Waymo discovered this when a supplier accidentally copied a Waymo employee on emails containing Otto's designs, and they said, those look very familiar. The suit alleges other former Waymo employees also took data when they left Google and went to Otto.
How do you think that employee feels right now about accidentally emailing something? Oh,
the supplier? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'll raise my hand. How many of us have accidentally sent an email to the wrong person and then immediately felt the embarrassment of that person going, hey, I think you meant Roger Chang? Not me?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It happens. It seems very obvious what's going on here. I think they have a pretty good case.
Yeah. I mean, the reason you go to court is to find out if you do have a good case or anything.
Yeah.
But I will say that Alphabet in general isn't highly litigative, right? Like if this was a patent holding company or something, if this was Samsung even, you'd wonder like, oh, are they trying to get away with something? This isn't ZeniMax. This is Alphabet, and they probably would not have filed this if they don't feel absolutely certain that their design has been compromised. And Uber is staking a lot of its future on autonomous cars. And if Alphabet was part of the reason for that, then they want some restitution, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this is an ongoing story, so I'm sure you'll follow it too, right?
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it for sure. Google has renamed its default Android text messaging app. This is the one that used to be called Messenger. And a lot of times people would replace it with their own proprietary messenger. So the idea here is, hey guys, don't give us a crappy text message app. When in your Android implementations, use the new Android Messages. That's the new name. And the app gets some updates as well. It supports Rich Communication Services, or RCS. That's a Google-backed protocol that brings multimedia, read receipts, other chat app type features to a standard SMS-like service. So it's like WhatsApp, it's like iMessage, but it can be used across multiple apps as long as you're in a device that supports RCS. Just like SMS, you don't have to all have the same SMS app, but Android Messages is the first one to support RCS. Multiple hardware makers and service providers are on board to support RCS, so they've got some pretty good uptake. However, they don't have the big names. They don't have Apple, they don't have Samsung, And in the US, they don't have Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. So if you're using the new Android messages and you're sending an RCS message, it will fail back to MMS or SMS. Kind of like if you remember before MMS was widespread, if you sent a link to somebody, if you sent an image to somebody who didn't have MMS, it would just fall back to sending them a link to the image on SMS.
Given I currently use Signal, I'm going to have to check and make sure that Signal is RCS. I would assume that it does do RCS, but I'm not sure. So I'm wondering how this is going to affect my conversations with other people who have yet to download Signal, who currently like use Hangouts, for example.
Yeah, so you use Signal for SMS, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm curious if Signal is supporting RCS. Let me know if you find that out, because I'm curious how many of these are going to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think RCS is a cool thing. I know it's Google pushed, but it is a standard, and I'm kind of hoping Apple and Samsung and AT&T and T-Mobile and all of them do support it, and it just becomes a standard that we no longer think of Google as promoting, because it seems like a great way to bust out a little bit of that, oh, well, you'll have to message me on WhatsApp because that's the app I use.
Generally, I've found with new standardization, especially with like protocols and things in the security field, what'll happen is it'll be slow moving to get popular, but at some point when the media picks it up, everybody starts implementing it. So now that we're starting to see RCS in the media and they're starting to explain like, hey, this is like a new implementation, it's going to take over for MMS and SMS, I'm assuming that we'll probably see a lot more of it, and hopefully a lot more in the US too.
KV87 in our chat room just took a quick look at the GitHub and says it said it doesn't support RCS at the moment. So,
cool. Good to know.
Thank you. Apple says a fix in iOS 10.2.1 has reduced unexpected shutdowns of iPhone 6 and 6S devices by 70 to 80%. So it hasn't eliminated all of them, but if you were having them happen a lot, this should reduce the number of times it happens. It's different than an unexpected shutdown bug caused by batteries. Those were recalled where they just took the battery out. The problem was with the battery. This problem has been caused by a sudden spike of activity. As your battery got older, the battery would deliver power unevenly if a bunch of stuff started to happen at once. I've actually seen this happen with my own old iPhone 6. And so it would go into an emergency shutdown and just reboot, or sometimes it would turn itself off and you'd have to manually turn it back on. Two things in this update. One is better power management. So when that spike in activity happens, it doesn't immediately cause a power problem. And if it does shut down, it now is more likely to reboot, which is at least better than having it just go black and giving you the frights that you've killed your phone.
I had one friend who had to take her older iPhone, I think it was an iPhone 6 as well, back to the Apple store, and they just replaced it. I believe it's because it was one of those battery issues, so not this one. Is this one very widespread? Because I haven't heard much about it.
No, and it isn't very widespread. And it kind of goes with what we're going to be talking about with Cloudflare. You have to have an older phone. So it's not all iPhone 6 and 6Ss. It's one that you've used for a long time. The battery has to have been cycled a lot and it's starting to get older. And it has to be a situation where you're sending a lot of things happening at once. And a lot of people don't use their phones that way, so they may never trigger that state of affairs.
What? You guys don't do that?
I know.
I play Pokemon Go while I'm checking my email and Twitters and all the things.
Every time it happened to me on my iPhone 6, I'm like, oh, I did too many things at once. Like I just felt that. Like I knew that I pushed you too far. I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
Yeah. The US FCC voted 2-1 Thursday along party lines to remove transparency requirements for ISPs with fewer than 250,000 subscribers. Now, that means that small ISPs don't need to disclose things like their network performance, their fees, their data caps, except to customers, but this was going to be a filing with the FCC. The initial rule exempted ISPs with fewer than 100,000 subscribers, and it was always the intention to reevaluate it and say, do we need to increase or lower that? So this reassessment is not unexpected. The exemption is now locked in for 5 years, however. On Monday, something a little different is going to happen. The US FCC is expected to put a hold on a data security requirement that is part of a broader privacy requirement. The data security requirement is set to go into effect March 2nd. That would require broadband companies to adopt reasonable security measures protecting things like your location, your web browsing history, sensitive information, other sensitive information, social security numbers, things like that, and medical information. And so the FCC wants to put that on hold. They would like to have a vote. So Chairman Ajit Pai is trying to call for an emergency vote because they won't meet again until March 23rd, which would be after this would go into place. If he can't get an emergency vote, though, he has the latitude to just unilaterally issue as commissioner a stay on this.
Right. So I'm all for security, obviously. So I'd be the one saying, yeah, this needs to go into effect. And on another note, speaking on the including the information about your network for 250,000 or less customers, I was not very surprised about that FCC passing because we had heard about it previously, and knowing that Ajit Pai just became like the FCC. The big boss, the head of the FCC.
Yeah.
So I wasn't super surprised that they passed that. And I feel like they should not have, because I think no matter how big your ISP is, your customers should be allowed to see network data like that on their account. Because in some places you just don't have a choice, and that's the only ISP that you have available.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. The transparency requirement, I understand that it's expensive enough to try to run an ISP. And if you want to encourage competition, you want to make it easy to get into the market. So making it so smaller ISPs have fewer hurdles is good. I don't think this is the definitive hurdle that keeps anyone out of the market, but I get the idea behind it. And so I support it in as much as what I would like to see the FCC do that none of them have done, as far as I know, ever, whether they were Republican or Democrats, is take concrete steps to encourage new entrants into markets, to encourage competition, make poll access easier, make infrastructure roll out easier. This ain't the silver bullet for it, but I'll support it in so much as it is a move towards that direction.
Yeah.
The one about privacy, the argument against having this, because all of us are like, well, yeah, I don't want the ISPs to, have handled my sensitive data badly. What the ISPs are saying is this holds us to a higher standard than, say, Google or Facebook.
Of course.
And so in that respect, it's worth looking at it and saying, okay, do we actually need to have the policy be stronger than that? Or is there enough market pressure to keep privacy? Or should we increase the privacy requirements of Google and Facebook? That's not a new conversation, though.
But then again, if you do that, if you make Google and Facebook and like Twitter or whoever else have those same kind of privacy protocols, it's kind of like a trickle down effect. You start with the ISPs, you go to the search engines, and then who's after that? It seems like you would have to create that kind of law for everybody in the stream going to all the way to the consumer. So at some point, it feels like that would be a wasted effort. But at the same time, I'm all about that security. So maybe it would just take, voting with our wallet to make that happen.
And honestly, I'm much more in favor of maybe a little bit overdoing it in protection of people's sensitive information.
Yeah, same.
If you have to lean one way or another.
Yep.
The International Telecommunications Union published its draft report on technical requirements for 5G radio interfaces on Thursday. A single 5G cell is going to need to have capacity of at least 20 gigabits per second. That doesn't mean you'll get 20 gigabits per second, unfortunately. That means everybody using that cell gets to split up 20 gigabits per second. Maximum latency of 4 milliseconds, so quite a bit of an improvement. By the way, LTE modems are required to have 1 gigabit per second capacity right now. So this is big. Support for up to 1 million connected devices per square kilometer, which sounds like a huge amount, but consider Internet of Things. You're going to have a lot more sensors out there, so you need a big number like that. And have at least 100 megahertz of free spectrum scaling up to a gigahertz. Users are going to be required to see a minimum of 100 megabit per second down and 50 up. So this is the part to pay attention to. It says in the worst possible scenario, when the node is overloaded and to capacity, you should still get 100 megabits per second down and 50 up. So that's pretty good. The draft is expected to be finalized and approved in November. And at that point, the technical specs become practical. Then you start having to decide, okay, what spectrum is this going to operate in? What devices are we going to settle on? And we're already seeing moves towards that.
I am so excited about this. This is so cool. I mean, I was just talking to a friend in Australia this morning who works at Telstra, and he was doing some tests of their wireless down there, their data, and he was getting somewhere around 960 megs.
Was this on the like LTE? It's not LTE Advanced.
It's the
but
new
there's-
one that they just
Yeah.
announced recently. And he was getting these incredible speeds, and the whole time I was just like, "Oh, I'm so jelly,
Yeah.
so jelly right now."
Just
So
makes you
yeah, I
jealous.
can't wait for this to happen. We saw a bit of information trickling out of CES about 5G, so it's going to happen. It's just when.
Well, one of the reasons I put this in here, and it didn't get a lot of attention in the press today, unfortunately, I think, because this is the real thing, right? You got Verizon's going to test some pre-commercial 5G, and AT&T's
Right,
and
that's
those are
what we were
great.
seeing at CES.
Yeah, this is the actual technical specs being put forward and saying, okay, we pretty much are ready to approve these. Everybody take a look before November so that we can nail them down, and that's concrete progress.
I am looking forward to it.
Finally, Valve released a free toolkit for developers called Steam Audio that adds physics-based sound propagation. In other words, sounds bounce off of things the way they would in the real world. So you can sort of mimic this. You can approximate this by having things get softer as you move away and having things get louder as you move forward. But it still doesn't sound the same as it would if you're coming around a corner in a room, right? And so that's what the demonstration of this shows is you can have a sound source that mutes naturally the way it would when you round a corner or it's blocked by a wall. It's going to be available on Windows, Mac OS, SteamOS, Linux, and Android, and works with Unity and eventually with the Unreal Engine 4, FMOD Studio, and WWise. The support for those last three is in the works. So they're trying to make it as cross-platform as possible.
The exciting thing that I find about this is that it's going to be cross-platform, first of all, which is going to be amazing, but it's also going to immerse yourself even more into virtual reality. Once this becomes available for VR games, it's going to really feel like you're actually there, as opposed to just having sound, slowly dissipate and then come back and be loud. So you'll actually hear things that make it sound like you're really walking around a space, or you're really like hearing that rain drop off of your hand or whatever it might be. So I'm so stoked.
It's one of those subtle things that you might not think is that big of a deal. You're like, oh, well, my game does that now. I can hear if it's over behind me, right? That's a little different than having that reverberation makes it really feel real. That's when you're like, whoa, that sound, like, I looked over there and I heard something, but it didn't get louder when I turned because it's happening behind the rock. And now I know it's happening behind the rock. Like that's the way your brain works. So
I feel like this will help too when you're in like a closed environment in a game. And I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but sometimes I run into walls in games. And I think
sometimes I
this
run
will
into
give
real
you,
walls. Yeah.
I think this will give you a better idea of how large the environment is that you're in. And it might help you with gameplay, especially if you're in like a first person shooter. So this is going to be really cool, especially for those FPS players. It's going to be great.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it too. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines of the day in less than 10 minutes, actually around 5 minutes, you got to subscribe to our sister show, dailytechheadlines.com. All right. Cloudflare. Where do we start? I want to start by saying don't panic, okay? Cloudflare is a company, and this is where it gets problematic. They provide optimization and security services for 5.5 million websites. So think of a website. If it's not Google, Facebook, Amazon, or Apple, think of a website, and they're probably on Cloudflare. They provide for Uber. They provide for OkCupid. They provide for LastPass, or for not for LastPass, for 1Password. So every site you can think of is potentially affected by this, but the chances of your data from using those sites showing up in this vulnerability is still fairly low. So as Shannon and I were talking before the show, it's that balance of we don't want to overly excite people into thinking that their data is out there, but we don't want to minimize that it could be. And so you might want to take steps anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to scare you guys because the chances are incredibly low percentage-wise of if any kind of data leaked specifically for your accounts. But it's still very good idea to change your passwords and do things like that. And we'll explain why in just a little bit.
It's kind of a good idea anyway. So, think of it as, oh, here's an opportunity to clean up my security act. But let's go through what happened. So back on September 22nd, Cloudflare started updating an HTML parser that they use. The update accidentally caused a coding error in the older HTML parser to surface a vulnerability. So HTTP rewrites enabled the first of the new HTML parser uses, causing some request for Cloudflare-backed sites to return information that is past the buffer. Now, this was a vulnerability that existed in the old parser, but the way the buffers were managed meant that it never showed up. It never actually spilled any data out of the buffer. However, with this new parser, the way that the buffers were managed changed, and it did. So some of the data from memory, which could be cookies, authentication tokens, post bodies, other sensitive data, could show up. Doesn't mean it did, but it could. And then once it showed up, search engine crawlers might see this information and cache it as they just go around in their automatic way crawling the internet. Now, Cloudflare customer SSL keys were not leaked. Cloudflare wants to make that certain. It was only things that were being transferred through Cloudflare from the client to the server, right? On January 30th, Cloudflare added a second new feature called server-side excludes that migrated to this new parser. Now, at this point, nobody had noticed because neither one of these two, the automatic HTTP rewrite or the server-side excludes, were used very much. Most websites that were using Cloudflare weren't enabling these services, so it didn't show up a lot. However, on February 13th, the email obfuscation feature from Cloudflare changed to using the new parser, and a lot of companies use that. It caused a spike in these memory leaks, and this is where it becomes problematic. This is when you start to notice it, and that's on February 17th, 4 days later, when Google Project Zero researcher Tavis Ormandy discovered the leak, discovered the leak and said, I think I need to talk to Cloudflare about this. So he posted on Twitter, like, how do I get in touch with someone? Someone from Cloudflare got in touch with him right away. Within 47 minutes of Ormandy describing the problem to Cloudflare, Cloudflare turned off email obfuscation, and that stopped most of the memory leaks. Remember, we said most of the companies were not using the other two. So they turned off email obfuscation. That got rid of almost all of it. Then they turned off automatic HTTPS rewrites 3 hours and 52 minutes in, and they thought they were done. They thought they had got rid of it all, but they kept looking to be sure, and that's when they noticed that the server-side excludes were also affecting this, although almost no one was using them, and the way it worked meant it didn't kick in all the time. And so they fixed that one after an additional 3 hours. So within 7 hours, Cloudflare fixed the underlying coding error, then worked with the search engines. And this is why it took from the weekend until now for them to actually announce it, is they wanted to see if they could clean up as many of these cached items as possible. So they worked with Google, they worked with Bing, they worked with Yahoo and others to try to identify any cached versions of Cloudflare sites that would have had the spilled data available. They thought they had gotten most of them. There's some people saying, hey, I think I saw one over here, I think I saw one over there. But that's why they went ahead and finally revealed it.
Boom. So I think we should take it back a little bit and kind of explain what some of those terms mean, because I know for myself personally, it made a lot more sense when I went through each item and kind of parsed it myself.
Hey.
So first off, the HTML parser, what is that thing? So you know when you say a whole sentence and your mind takes word for word and tries to define what that word means and then what the whole sentence means together. That's kind of like what an HTML parser does for a computer. So it takes that HTML code, a really, really long thread of code, and it parses it into little bits here and there, little segments that the consumer or the computer software is going to like translate for itself so that it's understood by the server or by a website or by a search engine or whatever it means. So that, in this case, Cloudflare is using it, just like you said, for things like adding Google Analytics tags for changing HTTP to HTTPS. And you see these kind of things happen all the time. If you're using like Google Chrome and you go to an HTTP website, it'll change it for you over to HTTPS. So those things generally work great and they work perfectly, but in this case it did not, and it created this buffer overflow. So when you have a buffer overflow, a buffer is like a temporary cup, if you will, where data is stored until it's ready to go to another place. So I store it from my fridge in, I don't know, my tea in the fridge, and then it ends up in my stomach. So when you have
if the buffer's working right, all the tea ends up in your stomach.
Exactly. And if a buffer overflow happens, that's when you put too much data in your cup, and then it overflows with that data, and then everybody can see that data outside of your cup. And that's not
on your shirt.
To happen. I know that was a terrible explanation, but that's
no, I like that. That actually works for me. Yeah.
That's how I think of a buffer overflow. So in this case, that overflow happens on their edge server, which is a server that's like, you know, between their private network and the public web. And it's supposed to be sending data through it just fine. But when this buffer overflow happens, you search for these queries on like Google or whatever it might be, and you end up with web data that you're not necessarily supposed to see. So you end up getting OAuth tokens or passwords or private messages on a dating website, for example, and things like that. So it is bad in nature. Buffer overflows are very, very common. And they should be taken very seriously, but the chances are incredibly low that your personal accounts are going to be affected by this. But that doesn't mean that you should not change your passwords, even though this is happening. You could look at this as a consumer and be like, oh, well, my chances are low, whatever. Nobody's going to target me. But if somebody is randomly finding this information and randomly targeting people, you could be randomly affected as well. So you should take it seriously and, you know, use a password manager. Turn on two-factor authentication if that's available on the website on Cloudflare. And you don't even have to know if it's on Cloudflare, to be honest. You should just use 2FA everywhere. And and use a different password on all the different websites. And then you should be okay.
Yeah. Just to give people an idea, because we have a tech-savvy audience, right? If the way I say it is, if a friend of yours asks you if they should change passwords, the short answer is yes.
Yes.
But if you want to know, okay, I want to know what the risks are, right? Even knowing you should do this anyway, know what the risks are. At its peak, when the email obfuscation was on, and that's when it got noticeable. That's when Tavis Ormandy noticed it.
Right.
There was only 1 in every 3.3 million HTTP requests that suffered from this vulnerability. So 0.0003% of requests. A tiny number of requests were actually subject to this buffer overrun. Then the buffer itself actually had to finish with a malformed script or image tag and be less than 4K and come from a site that was using email obfuscation or HTTPS rewriter or the SSE with one other feature at Cloudflare. So after all of that had to happen, then not everything you were requesting was in the buffer overrun. If you were filling out a form, maybe your password was in there, maybe it wasn't. It wasn't like the whole page was in the buffer. So that gives you an idea of the tininess of the chance that your stuff is out there. However, the other side of it, Shannon, of it, which is I'm sure what you're thinking right now, is if it is out there, someone's going to find it.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of times what people will do, if they are an attacker, they'll find data like this and cross-compile it against other vulnerabilities that have happened on other sites. And if they find a similarity between a password they found through this Cloudbleed thing and then the same password is used for a site that was hacked last year, it's most likely the same person that's using that password unless it's a very common password. And they will try to use it across multiple sites because they're going to assume that you're using that password across multiple sites as well. And if you don't change it, then you're kind of screwed. So yeah, it's definitely important to do that. Especially since this is human readable information that was being out there. So it's not necessarily encrypted. It's if you run across this from a Google search, you're going to know what you're looking at if it's a
Right.
private message or whatever it might be.
Yeah. For instance, if it wasn't encrypted in transit, it's going to be readable. Now, 1Password has made a point of saying, yes, we used Cloudflare. Yes, we used these services, but your 1Password password is encrypted in transit. So even if it showed up in the buffer, it wouldn't be readable. It would be encrypted. So they aren't affected by this directly. And that may be true for some other services as well. All of this is to say there is a very, very small chance that because of the size of this, the number of sites that use Cloudflare, there's a very good chance that you used a site that is affected by this. There's a very small chance that while using it, you were affected, right? Just because a site used Cloudflare doesn't mean it was being affected by this vulnerability at the time you were using it. But you don't know. You don't know whether it was or not. So if you want to be safe, you change your passwords. And that's why a lot of people are saying use a password manager, because then it's easier to change all your passwords because you don't have to remember them. With LastPass, you can just go in and say, change all my passwords, and it will do it. And that's that. So then you just have to make sure that you practice safe security practices with your password manager's password and all of that. But I'm telling people you should absolutely turn on two-factor authentication. So I posted to the patrons today at patreon.com to say, hey, patreon.com use Cloudflare. It's not likely that your password was in there, but it might have been. So you might want to change your password, and you should definitely turn on two-factor authentication.
Yes.
Because that will help mitigate against this as well.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Tom.
And you know what? I had a guy, I was talking with a guy on email. He's like, yeah, I don't use two-factor authentication because I don't always have good text messaging service. And I was like, oh, you should check out Authenticator or YubiKey. That is a way to use two-factor authentication that doesn't require a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I believe the newest YubiKey, it doesn't work with some of my apps that I have on mobile right now. For example, with Facebook, you can now use a YubiKey, but the new YubiKey 4C, which allows for USB-C compatibility, it won't work with the Facebook app because Facebook hasn't turned that on yet. But he would be able to do that via mobile or via the web with a YubiKey, and he wouldn't have to worry so much about SMS or text messages because it's hard-coded into the YubiKey platform, the device that you purchase from them. He could also use one of the apps too, like Authy or Google Authenticator or something like that, which are way more protected than SMS or MMS, which can be man in the middle. Like they can be intercepted. So highly suggest switching up to either Google Authenticator or Authy or something like that, or getting a YubiKey, because those are really great platforms.
Well, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them, and we pay attention to that when we pick our stories to talk about. This was obviously near the top of our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Okay, back to blockchain, just to lighten the mood. Kevin Douglas said, I feel like I have a good general understanding of blockchains, but I'd really like to understand the corner cases. How is a tie solved, etc. And I'd like to hear about actual and practical use cases outside of banking. The two resources I use when explaining the blockchain are Logs with Rules at medium.com and a simple demo from anders.com/blockchain. We'll have both those links in the show notes as well. So if you, like Kevin, are interested in helping to understand blockchain and be able to understand and explain it to others, you can check those out. We'll have the links in the show notes. Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Now, this was not an email to the show. It's a post I noticed on Hacker News that was made by Peter Gutmann to the Cryptography and Cryptography Policy mailing list. And Shannon, I want your opinion on this. This regards the collision of SHA-1 that CWI and Google researchers discovered. We mentioned it on the show yesterday.
Right.
Okay. He points out that the researchers, to discover the collision, required a very carefully crafted document. And he states this does not affect all implementations of SHA-1, but situations where you need signatures to be valid for a long time. So mostly long-term document signing and certificates, because it takes so long to create the document to be able to cause a specific collision that you want to happen. So he believes the risk of being exploited in practice is low for certificates and even for long-term document signing. And finally, to get to his actual post words, he says, finally, with other stuff, software updates, ISOs, and others, why were you still using SHA-1? And B, now you have about 6 to 12 months to finally move to SHA-256, and this time we mean it. For everything else, you really do need to plan to move to SHA-256. Think of this as a practical application of Wright's principle. Security won't get better until tools for practical exploration of the attack surfaces are made available.
Oh, that's so true. I love that quote. And yeah, this is something that the InfoSec community has been touting for a very long time, is SHA-256, something better than SHA-1, because it's out there and it is available. And these implementations are not very hard, especially if you've been trained as a network administrator or whatever you're doing with your day job. This is pretty easy to implement. So why are people still doing this? Laziness, a lack of funds, lack of time, just don't want to put in the time to do it. There could be a lot of reasons, but it's something that needs to happen because it is important. Your security and privacy is very important. It's just like what we were talking about with Cloudbleed. Now I'm saying it, Cloudbleed.
I know, it's just too easy. It makes it easier to refer to. I know.
Yeah, even though your chances are low, you should still get better security so that your chances are nil, or at least as close to zero as you can be.
Yeah, and I like what Peter was saying. He was trying to calm, the people who are panicking, again, saying, hey, it's a lot harder to make this collision happen than the headlines make it sound. Like, all the SHA-1 encryption has not fallen apart overnight.
Right.
But, like you say, that doesn't mean you shouldn't start right now, move into SHA-256. So there
exactly.
Eric from used to be sunny in South Carolina, now cold, sometimes rainy, and on the occasion bright and sunny Germany. That's a lot of weather. He wrote in and said, wanted to comment on your episode about WhatsApp. I use it every day here in Europe. In Europe as a whole, they tend to use WhatsApp and prefer it over text messaging. And I think that part of that comes from the cell phone plan structure. I have a new cell phone over here and I do a prepaid plan, or I have 3 gigabytes of data and 200 texts or minutes for calling for $25. So it limits me on how many texts or minutes I can use. But WhatsApp data usage is so low, I favor using it over any built-in phone features you're calling or text messaging. In fact, WhatsApp, my daughter's new school here in Germany, is my daughter's new school preferred communications platform. The German radio stations all have WhatsApp accounts. It's very popular here, but it's more along the lines because I think most people are in the position I am with the minutes or text messages. Not to mention, I don't have to worry about how I talk to people in the United States when I use WhatsApp. So coming from an expat, definitely different over here. And that explains most of it. We have mostly unlimited text messaging plans now in the US, so everybody still uses text messaging. If you didn't have that, then yeah, you're going to use WhatsApp or something else.
I saw the same thing happen in Japan last year when I was over there and I was trying to get in contact with some people, and they asked me if I used WhatsApp. And I was like, why does it matter? And they said, oh, everybody uses it. And I was like, okay, if it makes you feel better. So I downloaded it and I used it while I was over there, but it didn't make a difference to me because I was on an unlimited plan. But it did to them because I guess it's because of the data. She wasn't able to explain to me why there was that difference. She was just like, everybody uses it. So it's the thing. It's the thing to do in Japan.
Well, I was traveling with 3 other people in Japan, and we used WhatsApp because some of us had T-Mobile with the unlimited international text messaging, but not all of us did. And so instead of having to think, well, who has what, we all had figured out data. And so it's exactly like Eric is saying here. We just decided to use WhatsApp because we knew it worked for everybody.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Shannon Morse, for being on the show. Let folks know what's going on. Where can they find more of what you're doing?
Oh, man, we have some super exciting news this week. I can't wait for this. New product in the Hack Shop at Hack5, which we have been working on for a while. So you can go over to youtube.com/HAK5 and check out our teaser trailer and kind of see a glimpse into the back end of the warehouse too, and see what we've been doing behind the scenes. But I'm in there for like a split second too. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, it's called the Bash Bunny, and we're going to be having a big product release. You can find information in the show notes. If you're local in the San Francisco Bay Area, you can come to our little release party. And if you're not, we'll be explaining all the details about the Bash Bunny next week on Hack 5. So youtube.com/HAK5 for all those details. And we're super, super excited about this.
I'm so excited that the pineapple and the rubber ducky have a new friend.
Me too. And it's a bunny. It's one of my
It's a
favorites.
buddy. Go check it out, folks. HAK5.org. Len Peralta.
Hey.
What's going on?
Oh, just a little bit of a cloud bleed image. Tried to. Yes, I know. The last 2 weeks have been a little bit darker. This
Audio,
one,
folks, it's exactly what it sounds like.
probably, yes. It's
Cloud bleed.
a cloud bleeding all over a very upset person. Instead of the raindrops, it's ones and zeros. Obviously, from what you were saying, take precaution. Maybe not as crazy as what I have depicted here in my image, but hey, it's still kind of a cool image anyway. So you should definitely check it out over at lenperaltastore.com.
Do
I love the ones and
yourself.
zeros. So cool.
Yeah, isn't that neat? That's my little thing. I did that.
Yeah. No, I like that. It actually makes it a little like you're starting to feel it's a little gory, and they're like, oh, but it's ones and zeros.
It's ones and zeros.
That's not so bad.
I
you.
would say it's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. LenPeraltaStore.com. Go take a look, folks. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back on Monday with Ms. Veronica Belmont. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
I just got the beautiful.
Beautiful.
I just got that now. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think WhatsApp is popular in Japan for the same reason why Line is, at least in parts of Asia, is that to use SMS and not get charged, you have to be on the same network.
Oh, that's interesting. So,
So-
unlimited. Oh, it used to be like that for me too. I could text my sister because we were both on AT&T at the time, and it wouldn't count against my 200 text messages. Yeah.
And then, but if you do it with someone who's on a different network, it's like, well, you might get charged. So
I see.
So Shannon, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is a mail from security@facebookmail.com, is that legit or not? It's I got an email during the show saying that someone may have accessed my account, and so I was curious if that is legit or not.
I would say probably not. It sounds like phishing. But if you're concerned, go to facebook.com, like type it into your browser as opposed to clicking on the link in the email.
Don't click on any links in that email.
Yeah, that sounds sketchy. I wouldn't
Okay.
click on it.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
That's
Just go, I would
Especially
go
while we're recording. Yeah.
if I would go to my website, I would go to facebook.com, like Shannon said, type it in, log in, go into my security options, see if there's any alerts or anything.
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
and you can see in Facebook. I believe you can see your Facebook browser history or something like that.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, I will check
But
that.
but don't ever click on links in that kind of email.
Okay, very good. Hey, I'm going to log off, guys. 'cause
All
I
right.
gotta start getting ready
Good
here.
luck, Len. Enjoy your art opening.
Oh, yes. Thank you. It'll be awesome.
will there be food?
I have no idea. I'm going to assume not.
I'm going to assume it's like in Daredevil, season 1.
Right.
But that's what
No
it's going to be.
Exactly.
All right.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Titles. Number
Beautiful.
1 is "Don't Panic," a allusion to Hitchhiker's Guide.
And know where your towel is.
"Cloudy with a Chance of Flare." "Clean Up on Isle of Cloud Flare." "How Cloud Lost Its Flare." "Sometimes I Run into Walls." "Storing Your Passwords in Cloud Flare." "There's a Glitch in the Cloud Flare." "Cloudy, Bloody, Cloudy." "The Clouds Are Falling." Google says, "We am sorry." That would explain something I experienced yesterday. 5G, we have all the best specs. Audio evaluation. keep calm and don't panic. The security risk you pose is cloudy. To Cloudflare is human. Don't panic, but you better change all your passwords. I like that one. Cloudflare, another reason to use distinct passwords.
I like cloudy with a chance of flare.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Okay.
It's my fave.
Yeah, yesterday on my phone, I got a couple of things for both of the accounts I have on there to re-log in my credentials.
Maybe related to the Google Wi-Fi, maybe not.
Well, I thought it was a phishing attack, but then I tried putting in the wrong password, and then I put in the wrong Google Authenticator number and all that stuff. It seemed legit.
Well, W Scottus One Snubs is asking a good question. If you log into services with Facebook,
Yeah.
like how is that affected by Cloudflare?
So I'm not sure how Facebook implements it on with their OAuth type implementation, but usually what'll happen is when you change your password, it automatically logs all those accounts out, and then you have to re-log in and approve it through Facebook. Otherwise, if that's not how it works on Facebook, then you can go into Facebook and see what connected apps you have set up. And I know on Twitter it's under like connected apps, so I'll have to look it up on Facebook because I'm not as familiar with Facebook's policies.
Well, the thing to remember too is that Facebook doesn't use Cloudflare. I think I have that right.
Yeah, no.
And so Facebook itself wouldn't be subject to this vulnerability. So if you're using Facebook to log in, it's fine. But what Shannon just mentioned is very important. The Facebook OAuth token might get passed along by a site that is subject to the Cloud Bleed vulnerability. So the thing to do there is and I wish I would have mentioned this on the show, sign out of your mobile apps for sure, but sign out of your service and sign back in to create a new token. That way, if there is one of your tokens out there, it's not good anymore.
Oh, crap. I was just looking through Facebook. You can go to Facebook security and then recognize devices, and you can log out any devices that you don't use.
Nice.
Let me see if there's a thing about OAuth app passwords.
I have never used Facebook Authenticate. No, actually, I take that back. I used it for one thing, but it wasn't something.
There's also where you are logged in, and that shows you your current sessions, and you can end activity.
Great. That's really good.
Oh my God. I need to go through here and like de-authenticate everything. I have like old review products in here. Crap.
Yeah. It's kind of frightening sometimes when you go in and see those things. I've done that at Twitter before and been like, oh my gosh, that service doesn't even exist anymore. Like it probably isn't hurting anything, but I really need to revoke that.
Oh, Lord.
Wait, what are you going through?
You go to your Facebook profile and then click on the little drop-down caret in the corner, and you can go click on settings.
Yep.
Security. And then there's recognize devices, and right under that, it's where you are logged in. And you can revoke access to
Sergeant Buffett's like, oh, my Apple Newton is still on there.
Yeah, my old Samsung Galaxy S4 from 2 years ago is on there too. Whoops.
Well, these are all me.
Facebook for iPad? Oh, yeah, I still have an iPad. Oh, yeah.
Was it recognize devices? That's what you said it was?
Yeah, recognize devices.
And then where you run into that is where you're logged in.
Where you are logged in. Both of those are on the same menu.
Well, I apparently log in from the same two devices, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I generally don't like authenticating with a service.
Yeah, I don't either.
It seems kind of odd to me.
Yeah, see, I just went and looked at it, and none of these are making me like nervous.
Yeah.
But they're really old. Like if it's from 2011,
same with mine.
Just get rid of it. Just clear out the cruft.
Cruft. They make cheese slices.
That was a good question. Thank you for
Thank you, W. Scottus One.
Oh, my itchy hand.
Because now I'm looking at my own security and I'm like, oh, I should update this. I usually do that like once a year. I'll go through my different accounts and check passwords and stuff like that. But I think I
I'm
missed
seeing
Facebook.
I'm seeing all the names of my old laptops.
Oh,
Astrid and Murray.
oh, that's so cute.
Wow, yours goes back that far. Mine doesn't go back that far.
I
Mine
just
goes
left my
back as
back
far
to
as
15.
early last year.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Len Peralta commented on my Facebook or on my Instagram picture from today. Beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That does not surprise me.
I'm gonna favorite his post.
Oh no, 2012. Oh. This I can go. I can go. I can go. BlackBerry. Ah. Remember when I had a BlackBerry?
Oh, you had it forever too.
I love that thing. It would last like 2 days without a charge, without having to replug it in. It just didn't do all the cool, fun, appy stuff. Although Google Maps and like all the big stuff was on it, Twitter.
Thanks, Tom. Beautiful.
Beautiful. I feel like, I know this is just psychological, but I feel like encoding always slows down right before the end.
It
Because
does.
it knows you're waiting for it.
Yeah.
The encoding on my videos slows down at the end of it too.
I know it's probably not true, that it's probably just our brains playing tricks with us, but it really feels that way.
But it does. I think it's because it's
does it.
actually like saving.
There might be something to that. Yeah, it makes sense.
That's my guess.
It's not all in my head. Like the rest of you.
We're all in your head.
I've definitely had the fear throughout my life that I was going to find out that everything I was doing was actually just a hallucination.
No, it's the
locked
Matrix.
away somewhere. He thinks he's doing a podcast.
So this is interesting. I'm running a poll on my Twitter account. It says poll for my hacker friends: TrueCrypt, VeriCrypt.
Ah,
Yeah, and so far they've been pretty neck and neck. Right now, TrueCrypt's
Really?
at 46% and VeriCrypt's at 54%. Yeah, I find it pretty interesting.
I would have thought VeriCrypt would be farther ahead by now. That is really interesting.
Some people like to TrueCrypt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even still.
I split it between things I really don't care about as much. Like it's nothing sensitive. It's like family photos and things that I put in a encrypted container versus like, oh, my taxes. And that's just because I have a lot of photos, and to recreate a brand new volume for all that and then re-upload is kind of a pain in the ass. Versus oh, sorry, go ahead.
I've used both just for, testing and reviewing and doing tutorials and stuff like that.
Sure.
They work pretty much the same. It's just like, do you want the one that was audited and minor vulnerabilities were found but nothing major, and it's never going to be updated again? Or do you want the one that was audited and updated, but then new vulnerabilities were found and they updated it again, but I don't know if they have any more vulnerabilities?
Right.
So, and that one's also not as, VeriCrypt is not as, what would it be? Doesn't have the repertoire, I guess, that TrueCrypt does.
Right. It's
'Cause
sort
it's
of
the
like,
bell.
logically you would think VeriCrypt should be ahead because it is the more actively developed one, right?
Well, TrueCrypt died.
Yeah. When I say
in
more
like
actively,
2014,
I mean
so-
it's being developed. But with TrueCrypt, you actually know what you're getting exactly,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
well, I know what the vulnerabilities are, so yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's yeah. Well, unless you want to do something crazy like I used to do, you can just bury a VeriCrypt volume inside a
TrueCrypt volume.
TrueCrypt volume. I used to do that.
Make your VeriCrypt volume the hidden volume on your
I
TrueCrypt
don't do
volume.
that.
Huh?
Even I don't do that. You cray.
You cray,
No, I
Roger?
stopped doing it because it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's
Sounds
like whatever. You know, it's like, you know, if you want to look at it, you already have my tax records.
Hi.
Besides,
Oh.
having known enough people who've worked in the credit card / financial industry, your private information that you submit for loans, mortgages, credit card applications, not secure, laying around on someone's desk, open on the
Yeah.
street.
Okay. Granted, that makes a good story, and it is not technically secure, but lying around on someone's desk these days is actually more secure than being stored online in some cases.
Some cases. I still remember the Tech TV stolen. What did they steal?
Well, that was the finance person. Like, that's not a security vulnerability. That at some point you have to have a person handling information, right? And if that person is corrupt, as that person was,
No,
then
no,
yeah.
no. That was even before then. That was before then.
What are you talking about then?
There was a time. It might have been right after you were hired. But there was
Oh
a
no,
time
Eileen got bit by that, but I didn't. There was
And
a
then-
yeah. There
remember
was a
that?
there was
And
a
then-
breach though.
Yeah, well,
but
then-
that's one. Yeah, breaches happen. I know.
No, I
Yeah.
know, but that breach was someone went through the room. It wasn't like it wasn't someone hacked into it. Someone just took it physically.
Yeah, but breaches happen online more often.
I know, and then it happened to me at CNET, and then they got sent the thing. Sorry,
That one was online.
I guess they outsourced their payroll, and that place got robbed or broken
Yeah,
into.
I got hit by the CNET one myself.
Listen, there's no trust anymore.
I guess that's what I'm saying is if you want to say I want 100% security, you're always going to find a problem because there is no such thing.
That's true, and that's why I'm going to put all my important documents in a little lockbox in a cage of hungry lions.
Do you trust the lions though?
I don't know. I trust them to be hungry when I don't feed them.
Kittens be snitching.
My kitty says hi.
Hi,
Hello, kitty.
who's that?
This is Starbuck.
Hi, Starbuck. I had a laptop named Starbuck.
You've
Looked
met
very different than
Starbuck,
you. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah,
Was
most likely. She's been around for a while. She's been so quiet today. I'm really proud of her. She usually meows the entire time I'm in here. Give me attention. Give me attention.
It's so funny when Sawyer was younger, he'd always want to be down here, and then he'd bark at the door, and so I had to stop. I'd be like, "No, you can't be down here." Now I leave the door open, and he's older, and he's like, "Yeah, boring." He goes upstairs.
Oh.
Then he'll come down when I sit on the couch before the show for prep, and he'll come down after the show
Oh.
to check out what's going on. But during the show, he's like, "Ugh, you're not gonna pay
Oh, that's
attention to me, so
funny.
I'm out."
He knows exactly when you're going to be done and when you're
Yeah,
just starting. It's like, oh, you're done giving me attention. Okay.
yeah. He knows exactly when he'll have a chance of getting petted
Aw.
and played with.
That's cute. You're being good.
Ooh, we're gonna meet a dog.
You're going to meet a dog.
Yeah, possible adoption. Rescue dog.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the dog has to select them from a number
From a
of
lineup.
entrants.
So Sawyer can have a new friend.
Yeah, have a new sister.
Oh.
Uh,
Are you planning to get a puppy or adult dog?
we're targeting like around a year because that's what Sawyer and Django both were when we got them. Sawyer
yeah.
was 10 months, Django was 9. So somewhere
good age.
around there.
Yeah. Make sure they're somewhat house trained.
Yeah, Django was house trained, Sawyer wasn't. And we'd prefer it to be house trained, but
Yeah.
oh
House
my
training.
gosh.
House training.
So basically, what this email is saying is that we're going to go do a meet and greet with Sawyer to make sure that they get along.
Oh, there she goes.
And the goal is to have us bring her home if it all goes well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Ooh, good sign too. The woman from the rescue organization's last name is the same as my aunt.
Oh.
It doesn't really mean
Yay.
anything, but I'm like, ooh, nice.
There's a similarity there.
Yeah.
Yay.
Similarity, the singularity.
They're asking in the chat room what breed.
She is a. Actually, hold on. I want to say
Your aunt, that is.
human.
Just kidding.
I want to say human, but let me check. No, my aunt was total 100%. Well, mostly human. Where is she? Where is she? There she is.
Do you know what breed?
Is a husky mix. So she's kind of
love
husky.
huskies.
Kind of looks like she might have some shepherd in her too.
Oh, huskies are awesome.
I
They're
don't
so
want to put the
pretty.
link in the chat room though, because I don't want anyone to beat us to her.
Yeah. Now hide her away. Don't let anybody see her. That's what I did with Starbuck.
We already know what we're gonna call our next dog
Oh.
too.
Thank you for the kisses.
Oh, she's like, stop talking about dogs.
Yeah, basically.
Dogs.
All
dogs,
right.
dogs. Thanks. Thanks, Shannon, for filling in.
welcome.
Yes, thank you, Shannon. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Oh,
Meow. Oh, that was good.
you
That
said
was a good meow. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Do.
got my cat time. Yay.
Yeah, we're gonna call her Ray.
Ray?
Yeah,
Like
What?
RAW.
Rey.
Oh, like in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Here, I'll put it in the Slack. This is Jo. Her name's. They call her Josie right now.
Let me see.
My cats are
Aw.
Starbuck and Luna.
Oh, those are great names.
There we go.
Was this the one that you said that would probably be snatched or picked up already?
No, that was Violet, and she was.
You can't like hold them or something.